Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tim Meyer. I'm President and CEO here at Producers Livestock. It's the time of year again when it's time for our mid-year update here in 2026. Today's July 1st. It's a little bit muggy, a little bit warm and breezy here in Omaha, Nebraska, but all in all, the weather here has been pretty favorable for good crops. I know other parts of the trade territory are not enjoying a lot of moisture that they desperately need. So, I want to go through what I typically discuss, which is, how our different departments are doing as well as our company as a whole. But I also want to kind of touch on several other topics that um, I've been working on, spending some time on, and I think are worth mentioning today. So let's start off with our cattle department. Obviously, we continue to trade cash fats in the 255 to 260 range as we speak. Um, what an incredible year it has been, peaking at about 265. Will it continue, to run here at positive basis levels through the summer and into the fall? We don't know. But, for those that are buying those high price feeder cattle, margins aren't as luxurious as they were a year ago or even 2 years ago, but there's money to still be made, that can be made. And corn has gotten a little cheaper, as everybody knows, and that's making things difficult on the grain side. So, the cattle side, a lot of folks are a little bit timid, I would say, to reload those pens. But if we have a good crop and you've got that money invested in facilities and equipment and all those other things, we sure hope that you keep those pens full. And if you need help, we're here to help you with that. On the hog side, it's been a challenging year from the disease side. Markets aren't quite as lucrative as they were a year ago. I think I think the prices are still acceptable to small profits, but nothing like we've seen last summer in 25. So um, our guys continue to find pigs. They do a great job. And if there's any way we can help you with that, we've got several sources to unload those fat hogs, and we'd be happy to help you. Our commodity department continues to work very hard. We've got a real strong team there. We've got Zach Tyndall, who took over as our senior VP here in the spring of 2026. And we've got some strong, talented people there that are willing to help you discuss different available downside risk management tools. That's always going to be our mantra here at Producers Livestock, is to protect that downside while trying to capture as much as the upside as possible. I'm really looking forward to the direction of the commodity department under Zach's leadership, and I'm real pleased with what they're doing, how they're helping our people, how they're helping everyone. Certainly not a time to fall asleep on downside risk protection, and I've preached that for a long time, and I understand that there's been a lot of money left on the table over the years um, with hedge losses, but you hedge those cattle at a profitable number, we sure hope. And we've got lots of other tools if those are tools you want to change going forward. From the credit side, we continue to see large volumes. The sheer purchase price value of the livestock is continuing to drive that. If you go back to 2023, it essentially takes twice as much money today to fill your pens as it did then to buy these feeders. So our credit team continues to work diligently to try to help people with their financial challenges when it comes to that project. Obviously, breeding stock levels are at higher levels as well. So it continues to just be a sheer capital intense game that you better have good bankers, you better have good risk managers, and you better have people that understand it, that it just takes that much more money. It's going to ramp up your leverage. Your ratios are going to look a little less impressive, but we sure want you to stay in the game, and our credit team is here to do that. We have a new leader back there. His name is Howie Heckenlively. Howie joined us the first week of March as our senior vice president, He's a native to Omaha, but he's been in the cattle lending industry for well over the last 20 years. So take a time to get, or excuse me, take an opportunity to get to know Howie. Uh, our lending team still is rock solid back there, and our admin team as well. So we look forward to continued growth back there and strong performances there. Um, let's talk about all the other things going on in the industry. And I want to first talk about some of these plant closures that are affecting the beef industry. It's no secret that our numbers are down. Um, these cattle have gotten larger in an effort to try to replace some of the pounds that we um, had produced with a 1,450 pound steer 5 years ago. We're now feeding to 1,650 pounds. So um, the beef on dairy is a real factor, and it's helping. But I don't believe they can do all the lifting, to solve that issue. So we're finding the packing industry in a tough spot. They're probably not making any money at a level that they'd sure like to, and struggling to find headcounts to run these plants. So I would anticipate that we may see more of these. I would anticipate that it'll be the plants that are older and less advanced in the technology specter. Um, but I don't know. And they're pretty darn good business people. So if it makes sense to run them, they'll run them. If it does not, we may continue to see some more pressure from that. Obviously, this New World screwworm is a topic that needs attention. In the last 2 or 3 weeks here, we've noticed, it's made its way to the United States. As of yesterday morning, there was 25 cases, primarily in Texas, I believe one in New Mexico. Um, we have been talking about it. The Mexican border's been closed for a long time, and that was the right move, and it continues to be the right move. What we need to do, and I wrote my notes too small, so I need my glasses, but we need to remember that it doesn't affect the safety of the meat in our food system. That I think is part of the reason why our box beef prices have stayed strong, and it's why our consumers remain confident in a great product. Um, this screwworm is not a new thing. It was exterminated in the 1960s here, and unfortunately, I don't know why we choose to make things so hard for ourselves in this world, but it's now back, and I think it's got a chance to be a problem. But if we manage it properly and we do the things we need to do, we got to continue to produce these flies, these sterile flies that hopefully will eradicate it down the road. But in the meantime, making sure you keep a close eye on your livestock and hope that we get things done right down near the border and get things quarantined and hopefully be able to move forward, not having to worry about that in years to come. Let's talk a little bit about the economy in general in the ag industries. Some of the tougher years that our grain guys have ever faced are upon us. And I'm old enough that I grew up in the 80s. I graduated from high school in 1985, went to college in the late 80s, and saw a lot of firsthand um, challenges that were faced across the entire country, but primarily in the upper Midwest, I think, where a lot of the pain was felt. So, is it that bad? No, not today. It certainly isn't. We've got a lot of depth in our land equity. We've got some bankers that I think are, 40 to 45 years removed from the 80s who are much improved in how they're handling their clients, how they're helping them with their debt ratios and whatnot. So times are tough in that regard. Cash flows are incredibly tight. Um, and that's putting a strain on liquidity and putting a strain on, everyone's ability to pay these bills. Inflation continues to be a driver that, we just can't seem to shake. It's not as high as it was. Um, a good friend of mine always talks about inflation was 10%. So if I gained 10 pounds last year and now it's 3%, well, I still weigh 13 pounds more than I did a year ago. So it doesn't mean that I'm back to where I was or where I was in that regard. So it's kind of a weak analogy, but it is one that I think people need to recognize and understand, because every time you go to the grocery store or buy some sort of home furnishing or anything like that, it doesn't get any cheaper at this moment. So um, that's really a factor on the ag side. Our inputs continue to run extremely high. Fuel is finally starting to soften a little bit now that this Iran situation has got the Strait of Hormuz back open. So we've seen a drop in fuel prices of about 60 cents here in the last 2 weeks, but we still need that to come down some farther. Um, let's see here. Interest rates. I wanted to talk a little bit about that. I don't claim to know what they're going to do. And I listen to a lot of the same people that everyone else does, but there was talk that we might actually see lower rates here in the back half of 2026, but right now I would argue that rates either won't change at all or they could potentially go higher. We have a new Fed chair. Um, he's going to try to uh, show his management style, I would suspect, here in the next 6 to 12 months, and he's hopefully will shepherd us through this. We certainly don't need higher rates in the ag sector, but a lot of things that typically would drive rates going up or down are rather positive. We've got a stock market that's over 52,000. We've got a NASDAQ that's on fire. Um, Unemployment's at a very manageable level. And like I say, inflation's fairly well under control. So I would sure vote to see this thing stay the same as where it's at today. We really don't need it to go up. We'd welcome rates to go lower, of course, but um, we'll see what happens here in the next few meetings, September and into the fall. One little bit of advice, and that just comes from being at this a long time, and that is to make sure, as a borrower with a operating lender or working with our guys here at Producers, make sure you're communicating with your lenders about where you're at, where your liquidity's at, what kind of pressure you're feeling from your operating expenses. Um, I cannot express heartily enough that the importance of good communication. If you become evasive, if you become distant, or you're used to talking to that guy once a month or twice a month, and all of a sudden that goes quiet or goes silent, that's going to be an indicator that maybe there's some challenges going on that everybody needs to be aware of. So communication, communication, communication. That's my message to you in regard to your lenders. Some other neat things that are happening in the industry. Maybe a lot of you have heard of a movement that the Livestock Marketing Association out of Kansas City's kind of gotten behind. It's called the Common Ground Coalition. A little over a year ago, 40 industry leaders got together to kick that movement off, and that's been a movement that has gained a lot of momentum um, across the entire country. The LMA is hosting 4 regional summits throughout the country here in 2026. They hosted one in Reno, Nevada back in April, Omaha, Nebraska here in May, and then they'll be in Nashville, Tennessee in August, and Fort Worth, Texas in late August. So I myself and our board member Jay Rezak from Kansas were fortunate enough to get an invite to the Omaha summit and to have a seat at the table with the people that were there, and it was an extremely promising 24 to 48 hours of you know ideas being floated, different things that all need to be addressed at different levels of the cattle industry. Some of the things, and I'll put my glasses on here, but some of the things we really need to focus on are the mission of the coalition would be rebuilding the cow herd, somehow attracting emerging producers to that industry, We need to recognize how difficult it is from a capital availability perspective, land, other things that all are necessary for to run that cow herd. We got to find ways to help those emerging producers. Mentioned capital availability. That's a huge focus of the Common Ground mission. How can we provide uh, more capital with what things cost today? How can we provide uh, guaranteed loan programs, perhaps from the USDA or FSA, to make lenders uh, more comfortable with making loans for breeding stock and for pasture purchases and operating expenses. We talked about the importance of labor. Labor is a huge problem out in the cattle feeding and ranching sectors. Expanding risk management tools. We want to broaden the scope of the LRP products to help cover breeding stock, cull cows, dairy cows, everybody that's out there that's got risk, that in the breeding stock arena is looking for a way to manage that risk. So we're hopeful we can do that. Trying to find ways for affordable health care for people in the rural countryside. Tax policy improvements, for the land seller as well as the buyer, that works together to make that transaction smooth without the IRS making it more difficult or more expensive. And lastly, we discussed how to enhance the equip programs to reflect current costs and help with assistance there to help people do that. So, a tremendous group of people. I would highly recommend you just Google Common Ground Coalition, and it'll take you to the LMA's website where there's a lot more detail that'll be explained a little better, maybe, than what I'm doing today. We're also very proud of our Next Gen program. We continue to see growth there. We started this a little over 2.5 years ago with roughly 20 couples and individuals participating, and today we're in about 120. We recognize how busy you folks are, and we certainly plan to host our winter conference. It's going to be on January 7th and 8th in Omaha, Nebraska, down at the Embassy Suites. We're already making plans, talking to speakers, and putting together some tremendous programming. So if you haven't signed up, go to our website, look to the Next Gen tab, and it's free to join. We sure want you to be a part of that. In regard to some other things we're doing, I just want to mention these. This spring, obviously, the wildfires affected western Nebraska, so producers donated $20,000. We gave $10,000 to the Nebraska Cattlemen and $10,000 to the Nebraska Farm Bureau Association, hoping to get as many dollars in as many hands as we possibly could. We realize how difficult that has made things for people in regard to their grazing as well as their feed production. So that's something we felt we needed to do, and our board and I were happy to make those donations. Want to also mention that every year we have started donating to the American Cancer Society to support the Hope Lodge. The Hope Lodges are essentially the Ronald McDonald houses for cancer patients who are in the city for treatment, who are needing to stay in town. They can stay there for free. They're able to, reduce those travel costs, reduce the hotel expenses, and, they have to bring their own food and whatnot. But one of the things we've done is also, in addition to making donations of $7,500 to each location that we support, we spent Omaha, Iowa City, Kansas City, and Rochester, Minnesota. Each are receiving $7,500 a year for them to use towards protein products, support our industry as best they can, and give those things to their guests. In addition, our staff here in Omaha in particular has been quarterly producing a meal for the guests that are staying there at the Hope Lodge. Usually we have 30 to 40 people that are able to enjoy a home cooked meal that our staff makes on their own. We bring it in and we serve it, and we get an opportunity to visit with people from all over the upper Midwest who are going through a tough time. And I for one, go home every time from that event, and I'm like, man, I've got it pretty good. So I encourage all of you who maybe aren't aware of it, but the Hope Lodge is there for you to use if you ever are find yourself needing to need treatment in any of these cities, and we're happy to support it. We also continue to support the FFA and the 4-H programs throughout our trade territory. That's something that, supporting the youth is something Producers Livestock has done for years and years, and we will continue to do that. And so, as a leader of this company and the leader of a tremendous group of staff, I want to thank our board for tremendous leadership, support for the programs that we're offering, and support for the things that we're doing to, give back to our customers and our friends here that make us strong and help us build the business that we've got. So I want to thank all of our people here. I've got a tremendous team. I think we're doing tremendous work in the country to help people with their livestock industry challenges. Our I don't believe our team's ever been better than it is today, and I'm really proud to lead them. I'm really proud to have all of you as our customers and friends. And before I sign off, I want to make sure to wish you all a safe and happy 4th of July weekend as we celebrate 250 years of America and the experiment that it is. Hopefully, we can keep this ship sailing down the middle and do good things as we go into year 251.